If you or your transaction coordinator are struggling with your daily tasks, with your transaction management, you're struggling with doing too many things manually, or you feel like your processes could be more streamlined and automated, then open to close may be the answer you're looking for. Today, I'm here with Andrew Altman, the co-founder of Open to Close, where we're going to be taking a deep dive look into what Open to Close is, essentially in simple terms, as a transaction management system built specifically for real estate agents and teams, and to see if it is the answer you've been looking for. Andrew, to start off with, I'm curious, what initially sparked your idea to create Open to Close?
Yeah, so I had been searching for something for a long time. We got into real estate as investors, and then eventually I got my license, so I didn't have to pay the realtor for the fee. And then friends and family started coming along, and we started building this business kind of part-time, just a couple hours a week while I was working in an engineering firm. And we realized that, I went out to these job sites, and I was working with developers at the time, doing a lot of title reports, things like that were real estate adjacent. And I realized how much money they were making off these deals and how little I was making as a professional land surveyor. And so so I got my license actually. And then once I got my license, then things just started to snowball. My wife got involved in the business, and she really wanted a system because our first TC was all paper and pen. And so she had all these great ideas. We started putting them together. I contacted my other co-founder, Shane. He had a program at the time. I had built Salesforce, and I had spent way, way too much money. I'm embarrassed to say how much money I spent on Salesforce trying to build it out. So we decided, hey, let's go with a more economical, version of this. And so we started calling around to different platforms. I've tried everything, and nothing really was like custom enough for what we wanted to really dial into the process in my state, in my city. And so I called Shane and I told him some ideas. I said, hey, your program's incredible, TC Workflow at the time, but here are the other automation pieces that we need. And he said, yeah, I'll give you a call back in a couple of weeks after I think about this. And I'm like, this dude's never calling me back. Like I just, I just told him all these crazy ideas. He actually called me back like 2 or 3 days later and said, I've been thinking about all the same stuff. Let's do it. And so we partnered in January 2020 and started Open to Close.
Okay. So for those watching, there's a little, some people may be wondering, do I even need Open to Close? So who is the ideal user or client of Open to Close? Do you need to be doing a certain number of transactions to fully take advantage of it, or what do you think?
I look at it more of a mindset perspective. If you really want to dial in your systems, like it's great, right? If you're going to scale your business, of course, you need Open to Close. Open to Close is going to be able to get your TCs up to over 100 transactions a month by themselves. We have some people doing upwards of 150, 160 a month by themselves, maybe a VA involved. But I really look at it as a mindset. When I get on a demo with someone, and we turn people away quite a bit, so don't be offended if you come and we're like, hey, this probably isn't the right product for you. But it's a growth mindset. If you have that growth mindset and a systems mindset, there's 2 different mindsets I look for. One is they want to grow their business. They may be at 40 transactions right now, but they do want to grow to 240, 340, 440. Those people are great. And then you have the other side that's just so systems oriented, like they really want their stuff dialed in, and they have that process mindset. And so if you have that process mindset, it's great as well. If you just come and you don't really have any of those, if you're doing, probably 150 plus transactions, it's still going to save you a person, or at least a half a person. And so it basically pays for itself once you figure out the numbers.
Okay, that's good to know. And I'm sure we'll dive into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
One thing that caught my attention was the website mentions that Open to Close, what was it, transforms chaos into clarity. What exactly does that mean?
So most people are, when we go into their systems, and you would be surprised at the big teams that you idolize out there, how dysfunctional their back end is in their systems. And so we go into a lot of these big teams and we look at the back ends of their systems, and it's like, they have to have it figured out, right? They're doing 1,000 transactions a year. They do not have it figured out, guys. Like they do not. So we go in, we look at the back end of the system, and then we can really get rid of all the nonsense, right? There's a lot of minutia that happens during the transaction. And if you're not careful, you can go down these rabbit holes of doing things that aren't necessary and don't provide value to the client. And that's what we really look for, is what is going to give the ultimate end user experience and the ultimate agent experience, because as we know, agents are busy, right? And they have a different personality. I'm an agent, I have a different personality. You're trying to talk to me here and I'm looking at 15 other things there and there and there. So we want to make it as easy as possible. We want to make it one system that they have to log into, like a Follow Up Boss or something like that. And then we're just going to integrate with those things so the TCs can do the hard work behind the scenes and the agents can have the visibility in the front end.
Yeah, I had never thought about that before. I've always thought of open to close being more beneficial to the agent, but you also have the perspective of it also being beneficial to the client. How would a platform like open to close improve the client experience for agents?
I think it's visibility and built-in notifications and things like that. So at the beginning of the transaction, you can find out, you get a good feel for your clients on what they want and what they don't want, right? Some of them want a ton of notifications and they want to know everything that's going on. They're control freaks, whatever that personality is. Other people are like, let me know when we get to closing. And so you can structure open to close in a way that they're getting automatic updates without any more time being spent by the transaction coordinator. So when I check this task off, right? And we can talk about that later, but I want to get away from tasks. So I've never used tasks in my business. We use more of a triggerized system where if these 5 things are true, this email needs to go out, or if these 3 things are true, we need to add this. So, but most people's are task-based, and that's okay, right? So our tasks, when you check off a task, we can have triggers associated with that task. One may be text the client. So the sign goes up in the yard. You check that task off, an automatic email, or you can look at it before it goes out, however you want. A lot of my internal stuff to my agents is automated. A lot of my external things I take a look at before it actually goes out to make sure it looks good and the quality of the product is still what I want it to be. So a lot of those automation techniques are great because the client is constantly getting updated, but you're not doing anything other than what you're currently doing.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of melding automation, but you still want that personal touch to it. You don't want to just automate everything and then a mistake happens and the client receives the wrong email or it sends the wrong verbiage in the email.
I think it's thoughtful automation too.
Oh yeah, thoughtful automation. Yeah, that's the right.
It's that thoughtful automation that's like when they get it, they have no clue that it's automated, right? Because you've spent the time in the back end of the system to piece this stuff together so it looks like you've spent 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes on this email before it goes out. And it's everything they need, not too much, not too little. They have no idea it's automation. I think when people think of automation, they think of, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my 5-star service level. I'm going to, all this stuff, but it's not. It's just to enhance that so that you have more time to get belly to belly with those clients and actually provide them really what they need while you're cutting out the minutia of the transaction. That's just more paper pushing or button pushing during that.
Yeah, it's kind of the growth mindset you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation of if you want to be able to scale your business and make more money, then you need to embrace the technology that's available today and embrace the technology like open to close. I'm curious if we can go ahead and do a screen share and
Sure.
kind of show what we're talking about. I know there's a lot of visual people that want to see what the platform looks like.
So here's open to close. The one thing that we really like to do in open to close is we like to make everything role based. So we don't want, if you lose an employee or someone gets promoted or they want to move on or whatever that scenario is where that person's moving out of this position, you don't want to have to go and replace 2,000 tasks for that person. And so we're very role based. We classify people as a role. So maybe they're the transaction coordinator, maybe they're the intake specialist, maybe they're the closing specialist, whatever, maybe they're the document specialist, whatever those things are. And so it's really easy when you come in here. Just one of the features, you come into the organization and you come over to like teams, and under the teams, you can classify everyone in the transaction as whatever their role is. So if Lois is out sick today or she got promoted or whatever, and we don't want her doing the transaction work anymore, all you have to do is come and uncheck this box. And then you're going to come over to some other person on your team and you're going to check that box, and thousands of tasks just updated because we are role-based and not person-based. So we do this throughout the system.
Okay, so if Lois is out sick, or like you said, she leaves or has a promotion and no longer is in that role, and you want an easy way to roll over any current tasks she has assigned to her, or even future tasks that will get assigned to her. Now they're going to get assigned to Peter.
Yeah, because the team really controls. So the team is assigned to the transaction. The role is assigned to the person. So when our system starts, right, you fill out an intake form or however you want to start the transaction. It knows by your answers where it has to go and what we need to add. So if you tell me there's an HOA, we're automatically going to add the HOA tasks, the HOA fields, the HOA triggers, the HOA everything, documents for compliance. Everything you need about HOA will be automatically added. Same thing with well, septic, solar, all these things that could happen in a transaction. We're going to automate that process and build the perfect transaction for you. So you're not looking at 400 tasks when you only need to look at 50. Same thing goes for a team. We're going to know what team this needs to go to, because you may have expansion teams. You may have just a listing team and a closing team. You may have all these different scenarios. We've built that in so that that initial intake or the initial setup of the transaction will automate all that for you so that it notifies the right person to start this transaction and get going.
That's really cool.
Same thing we do over here with templates. So our system is very templatized. As you can see, we got email templates, message templates, task templates, document templates, a lot of templates, because templates really control. Most transactions are 80% the same, and then 20% it goes off the rails, right? When you have all these extra things to deal with the transaction. And so what we do is we bring in templates, but these templates are even, I guess, geared towards these. So if there's an HOA, like I mentioned, that HOA piece of those templates will come in. So you're piecing all these little pieces together to make the perfect transaction. And you can even do that within like the emails. So emails are one of our biggest time savers in the system. Not only do we send to roles again, so if there's 8 buyers on the file, you don't have to change your process for this file. All you have to do is classify them as a buyer. And now every email that was set to go out to the buyer will go out to 8 people instead of the normal 1 or 2 buyers. So role-based again. We have merge fields, but we also have what we call smart blocks, which are merge fields on steroids. And these are, here, let me just double click on that. And then, sorry, my screen's small, so I gotta, there we go. So over here, what this is called a smart block. If this is true down here, this condition, this piece of information will pop into the email. So without going too deep, basically what you're doing is the emails are building themselves based on what's happening in the transaction. So now instead of having all these emailed highlights all over them saying, I got to add this if this happens, I got to take this out if this happens, we do all that automatically for you based on the transaction. And now you can send an email in 3 seconds instead of 3 to 15 minutes sometimes.
Okay, so to clarify, like this little block that you have highlighted, this is a smart block of delivery on the right side.
Yep.
That's not just like a merge field that'll populate. That has conditions in place to say if all of those conditions are met, then you're going to add this one particular sentence with this date merge field, essentially.
You got it. And it could be a sentence, it could be a paragraph, it could have bullet points, it could have another smart block inside of a smart block. Like we won't go into all of the things that you can do with it, but at its very basic level, it's a merge field with a condition on it. So that way you can build one email that satisfies 10 different scenarios of that email. Instead of having to create 500 email templates, maybe you create 100 really good ones with smart blocks in them. And now your system is very streamlined.
So let me ask you something. On the previous screen you were just on where you showed all the templates, and now you're showing this one particular template with the smart blocks. I know for a fact people watching this who just saw the previous screen of the templates and the menu on the side, their eyes probably glazed over and thought, well, I was excited to have a powerful program software like Open to Close, but either their eyes glazed over then, or their eyes are now, they're like, okay, I get it. There are templates and that's great. But now their eyes are glazing over like, how in the world am I going to create all these scenarios and conditions? What do? They say, I know I want to use this, but I don't have the time or desire to build out these conditions.
So we give you a pre-built account. So our internal engineers, transaction engineers have built a pre-built account that comes in that's about, for a person doing under 50 transactions, you could probably use it out of the box, honestly. But we like you to put your special sauce on it. So what we do is we give you the pre-built and then we train you on just a couple things that you can upgrade to get it working like you work now. And so the process is very simple to get started now. It used to be very difficult when we started because it was just me and Shane. And so I didn't have time to do demos and build all the stuff that we needed. We found that was a huge pain point. You know, we kind of got a bad rap at the beginning that it was really hard to set up. Well, since then, we've put a lot of things in place. We have group classes. We have a support team that will send you videos. We have open question and answer Wednesdays. We have a pre-built account that you can download right into your account. We also have an implementation team that will help you get this stuff set up. So we have a lot of avenues and a lot of resources now to help you so that you don't, and actually we're working on a really cool thing. They're probably going to kill me for mentioning this, but because we don't have a timeline on it, but we're working on an importer tool that will basically take wherever you're at, import it into open to close. And the onboarding process should take like a couple of days now, you know, like 1 or 2 days, depending on you and how fast you get us the information. So it's going to be a really cool upgrade. I'm hoping it's sooner than later that it comes out, but look for that in the next probably month or so. And we're going to streamline this. We know this is our biggest Achilles heel. And so that's all we're working on is better onboarding process and better getting you up to scale processes.
So what do you mean by importing where you currently are?
Yeah, so if you're in a spreadsheet, that's fine. We can take the spreadsheet and we basically manipulate it into a file type that can come into open to close, and all this stuff will pre-populate the way that you're working. And so one thing I do want to mention, because I know you'll probably appreciate this, is like when we bring someone new onto the system, all we're doing is getting you working in open to close the way that you're working now in your current system. So that's phase one. Get it in, get used to the product, get used to the navigation, tell us some pain points that you're having. We work through those with you. We make sure you're comfortable with the layout and how everything works. Phase two is refinement. And so the refinement phase is going through and saying, okay, now what features in open to close would you like to start using? And then implementing those one at a time. Where people fail is they come on and they get big eyes, right? Because we have a lot of features. We have a lot of cool automation stuff, and they try to do everything at once instead of just getting used to the system, adding smart blocks, adding, you know, triggers, adding something else. We do it in stages so that you don't get overwhelmed because we know everyone is busy.
So does open to close, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I saw last year open to close started offering a done for you build out. Is that true, or did I misread that?
No, we do. We have a done for you build out. Now we still need you to meet with us, like, you know, every so often to say, hey, we need this from you. Where do you keep your email templates? You know, send us your task lists, or, you know, you still have to be an active participant in that, but we do the bulk of it for you. And then we guide you along the way, and we'll ask you questions like, hey, your current process is this. This is best practice for most of our teams at scale. Would you like to alter your process or keep it the same? And just maybe, you know, we go through those questions with you to make sure that you're getting set up in a very efficient way.
Okay. And I know you mentioned that you've added on a lot of extra support since you first launched. You've got these weekly meetings. But beyond what you mentioned, what does support look like if someone wanted an answer, a question answered, maybe through a chat message or through email support? Does that exist? And what does that look like?
Yeah, I would put our support people up against anyone in the business. They are incredible. They go way beyond, you know, what most softwares do. Basically what happens is you can come on the site, you have I don't have it because I'm in a different account, but there's a little purple button down here in the bottom right. And then you can click on it. It's just Intercom. If anyone's familiar with Intercom, click on it, type in your question. It'll give you some suggestions on articles, but if that doesn't answer your question, then our support team will jump on. Our response time, I think last month, if I looked at the numbers correctly, was about 2 to 3 minutes was the initial response time. And then the to answer was a little longer. I think it was like 45 minutes, but that's because some of the time we have to go back, research your actual account, make a video for you. So our support people will actually, if you give us a video, that's the best way, right? A little Loom video, stick Loom on your computer, do a little video, show us, because a lot of people will say, oh, I'm in the template screen, and they're actually on some other screen. So the video shows us actually where you're at and what's going on. We can take it back, and then we duplicate or we replicate what you did in your account, and then we give you a video of how to fix it, or we'll just fix it for you depending on the scenario. So a lot of the times you're getting that support video back step by step on how to fix this issue, or maybe just a strategy to kind of improve what you're currently doing.
That's great. Yeah, I was like, when you said 2 or 3, I was expecting to hear days, and you said minutes.
Yeah.
But then even 45 minutes, like you said, that's really rare. Is that 7 days a week?
It's not, it's 5 days a week, but we do jump on the weekends. And if there's something crazy going on, we do jump on and
Yeah.
answer those. So if it's like, hey, I can't log into my account, you're going to get an answer back like right away. There's people monitoring those to make sure it's nothing major. But if it's like, hey, I don't like that this is blue and I really want it red on my screen, well, that can probably wait till Monday.
Yeah.
Now, I was just talking to our ops manager yesterday, and we are adding, and we don't know when yet, but we are hiring to add weekend hours. So we will have weekend coverage. It probably won't be the full day because we just don't get enough volume during the week. Honestly, most TCs are off on the weekends. So just a pocket, probably in the afternoon, early afternoon, to make sure we don't miss anything important. And they can answer those as well.
That's great. Very good. Yeah, I'd love to go back to the screen share and see, um, yeah, how people build out open to close.
Yeah, so a couple of our features that I'll point out, we have API field mapping. We have a really strong connection with Follow Up Boss. So, obviously, if you're on here, Elena, and she's big in the Follow Up Boss community. And so we have a very, very deep integration where you're able to pull your contacts over from Follow Up Boss into our initial intake forms. You're able to go to, like, if you're in a transaction here, I'll just show you, and you're under contacts. So here you go. So when you're in, when you're in contacts, you have this API import, and you can see FUB is there. So you just click on FUB and you can pull over any contacts into open to close.
Mhm.
Now we also have a widget in Follow Up Boss as well, where you can see all the information. The agent has full visibility into what the TC is doing in real time. So as this TC, and I apologize for how small my screen is, but let me see here. Oh, I need to make my screen bigger. Hold on one second. Basically, we have a follow-up boss screen. And so you have 3 options in that follow-up boss screen. You're going to have the widget screen. Do I want to add a widget on that contact? So husband and wife would each have a widget. That's going to give you the field data, the timeline of the transaction, the documents, the notes, pretty much anything you need to know about that. And so your agents can live in Follow-Up Boss, which we want them to do. We don't want them logging into 15 different systems. We want them living there. You're also going to have all the communication. So in Follow-Up Boss, that communication in the middle, you'll have all your emails, your texts, everything. That will come straight from open to close to Follow-Up Boss. Once you set it up at the beginning of the transaction, it takes a couple minutes to set up. We also have the ability to take this file and create a deal over in Follow-Up Boss. So it will create the deal in Follow-Up Boss, or some teams have a process where they're creating the deal a little earlier than other teams. You can attach the deal. So you can attach the deal in Follow-Up Boss to this deal and open to close. And then the cool part about it is we sync custom fields as well. So not only the fields down the bottom left-hand side of the screen, which I don't really recommend anymore, because now we have deal fields, which are more specific to what we do. We're able to take this field data over here on the left and automatically sync it to the deal fields in Follow-Up Boss. So the agents can go into their deals at any time, see the commission, see all the field data, see what's going on, see all the emails, see the text messages. They can see everything. They have full visibility into what's happening real time. And this happens instantaneously. So if I change this contact right here, it's automatically going to change in Follow-Up Boss.
2 questions for you. One, do you have the ability to show what the widget looks like in Follow Up Boss?
Yes. Second, okay. So in Follow-Up Boss, you're going to see my communication here. You can see that this is a text message because it's 2 phone numbers, and it'll show you those phone numbers and who it's going to. You'll see a lot of test data, so it doesn't really look that great, but it'll look better in yours. Here is some emails that the TC sent on their behalf. Now, we do put them in as notes right now because we don't want them screwing up your smart lists and moving people from smart list to smart list. But what we are going to do in the future, we're working with Interface, and they have some really cool automations that they're doing where you can actually say who's the communication from to move it from smart list to smart list. So we are working on that with Daniel and his team just to kind of streamline that. So here's the widget I was talking about. So you come in here and you can have multiple properties. If it's an investor and you're working on 20 different properties, all you have to do is go back to properties and then select which property you want to view. Here's the view that most agents are in, is the timeline. So you can see the timeline there. And then the details, this is all the field data. So they can actually go into the field data and see what's going on there. You have documents, so you can upload and download and do all that kind of stuff. You have contacts that may not be in follow-up boss. Yeah, they're just maybe like inspectors and stuff that you don't keep in there. So the agent has full visibility into those contacts as well. Tasks and notes as well. But most people are either in documents or they're in the timeline, and that's where they kind of live. We can also, we mentioned the deals. Now this deal is pretty, I only have 3 custom fields in here. You would have way more. What we recommend is everyone just goes and puts all the fields in open to close in follow-up boss, and then you sync those back and forth through a field mapping piece. So you can see all that. And then we also send the tasks. This is something that's fairly new, about 6 months ago. We have a new thing where you can actually put follow-up boss tasks in open to close. And so when that transaction generates, it says, hey, TC, we have 18 tasks here that say they're follow-up boss tasks. Would you like to send them over to follow-up boss? And would you like to just assign them to the agent, or would you like to manually assign these to maybe like a marketing manager and an admin and other people as well? So at the beginning of that transaction, those 18 follow-up boss tasks pop up. They say, I want to send these to these people. And then those tasks come over to and are assigned to those particular people in follow-up boss as well. So that has been really nice as well to have those tasks coming over. We used to have tasks in the widget, but these tasks function better because they can actually use it like they're using their other tasks up in the task menu of follow-up boss.
Okay, so let's pretend you mentioned like creating a new deal. You can either do it in open to close or follow-up boss first. You mentioned an intake form. Can you show an example of, let's pretend someone either did the build out themselves or they hired your team to do the build out and it's complete. And now we have a brand new deal. What does that look like? What does one do to start a deal in open to close?
So if it's an agent, you can either put a link down in your fields here, kind of like you see like a YLOPO link or a interface link or some of those other companies that integrate with follow-up boss. They'll have embedded links down in here. So you can see here's a link right here. This isn't a very good one, and there's my YLOPO stars link as well. So you have some links down here that you can click on, and that's going to take you over to open to close. Now it's going to make the agent log in once every 30 days just for security purposes. But it comes to a screen, and now let me preface this with, you can set up your system however you want to start the transaction. If you're currently using .loop, we integrate with .loop, we integrate with SkySlope, we integrate with all the big programs, right? So if your agents are currently starting that transaction over in one of those programs, you don't need to do the intake form for the agent. You can have the TC fill out the intake form to start that transaction, or you can do a manual start on the transaction, just to be clear. There's many ways to do it depending on how your team does business. But the ideal scenario for me and my team is my agent fills it out. So you have the open to close login here, or you can put a custom field down here in the bottom left. The agent clicks on that. It opens up the intake forms that they're allowed to fill out. So you have permission based. I don't want to give a brand new agent my short sale intake form, right? I'm not letting them do short sales or probates or divorces or something that's a little bit more difficult. So they'll have only what they can do. They click on the intake form over and open to close, and I can show you. So let me go to, not quite what it'll look like on their side, but I'll give you an idea. So templates, so intake forms, and these are 100% custom and dynamic. So if I say yes to HOA, it may pop in 2 more questions to say, what's the HOA name and what's the HOA phone number? If I say there's a buyer contingency, it may ask me a bunch of other questions and require me to put an extra document in, may require me to put an extra contact in. So there's a lot of different ways that these intake forms can help. And like I said, these are all pre-set up for you, so you don't have to set these up. You're just basically just putting your special sauce on it. So let me open this and see if I can get one too. So here you go. So here's what the intake form looks like. You wouldn't have to fill out this team or user. This would be pre-set up because I went through a different way. It's asking me what team I want to assign this to. Basically, you're just filling out the fields. So you just fill out the fields. You go to the next page. You fill out the contacts on the next page. If you're required to do that, a lot of teams only have the fields, and then they just do the integration from .loop or SkySlope or somewhere to bring in the contacts and the documents. So this is what it would look like for the agent. So they're just filling out a quick form, hitting enter. It's going to notify the TC that there's a new file to process, and then the TC goes in on their side and starts processing that file.
Okay, so then what does that look like? Once the TC gets the notification, do they open up open to close? And then where do
Yeah.
they go? And
Yeah, so I mean, they're probably in open to close every day, right? Because that's their job and they're just kind of living in there. And this fire icon will light up. And this is basically the submitted. And these are the incomplete ones that the agent's still filling out. So you have some visibility in that. So if you come over here to submitted, you'll see I don't have any right now, but you would have a new file here. And then it would say, go ahead and process this. You would hit the process button. You can have a secondary intake form for the TC. So if you want the agent to just fill out like, right, we want to keep this easy for the agent. So like they fill out maybe 5 or 6 questions. It comes to the TC and the TC fills out the rest of the questions. Now, something really cool that they're really going to kill me for this, but we're almost done with OCR. So pretty soon the intake form will become more obsolete because we're going to be scanning your documents and automatically putting them in the right fields and open to close and setting the automation for you. So once a document is sent over, we can scan that document, grab all the information out of that document and put it into open to close automatically instead of you having to go through this intake form process, which sometimes takes, 10 or 15 minutes. You can cut that 10 or 15 minutes off every single one of your files.
Wow, that's awesome. So what sorts of tasks would a TC initially see? Just because I'm not as familiar with the transaction management space, so I'm very curious, like what sorts of tasks would a TC normally see? And then how do they complete those tasks?
Yeah. So our tasks are probably one of our biggest time savers in here. And let me show you an example. So when you come in here, your tasks are going to pop up. So here's a task, send opening emails, right? This may be at the beginning of the transaction. You want to send an email to everyone. Now there's 2 ways to do this, and I won't go too deep in this, but like I said, there's a triggerized system and a task system. I prefer triggers. The trigger system is going to say, hey, you put all the intake form information. So we already know the information to go into this email. And we've met the conditions of that trigger. And it's just going to pop up and say, here's the email you need to send. Okay. That's the automated way. The non-automated way is go to your task list and say, check this task off. When this task is checked off, here I have 5 triggers that are associated with this task. And so if I click on these triggers, when I check off this task, these 5 things can happen. And so I have a text that goes out to the buyer agent. I have an email that goes out to the listing agent. I have an email that goes out to the lender. Now the lender one's only going to go if you said that there's a finance file and it's not seller financing. So the system knows based on your intake form if there's a lender that we need to send this information to or not, and it won't put it in if it's a cash deal. So then all these things will happen. All these emails will pop up in front of you and say, do you want to send this? Yes. Do you want to send this? And if you missed anything, it's going to put a big red block in that email and say, hey, you forgot to put in this information for this email so it can be complete. So we do have checks and balances with this stuff as well. So, and then, these are junk tasks that I put in here, but you may have something like verify that the earnest money went over, to the title company, check in with the client and let them know next steps, check in with the lender and make sure you have XYZ information, contact the escrow officer and get that communication going. So you can have all these tasks in here and you have dates. So based on the fields that you filled out, it's going to automatically generate your timeline for you based on what you've told it and your contract. So if you have 5 days to respond to this and 10 days, it's automatically going to generate that. And then if you turn on our Google integration, it will also send all those dates over to calendars, your agent calendars. If you want to send them to your clients, however you want to do it, you can set it up that way.
Got it. Okay, very
So,
good.
and then we have this health bar up here that's going to keep you on track. So if you see red, it means there's something due today or past due. If there's something that's kind of this gold, it's due in 1 day, and blue is due in 2 days. So if I click on this, I can see everything that I have still to do on this transaction. I need to send this email. If I hit inspect, it's going to show me the email. I can look at it and then hit send. There's a couple emails in here. There's a lot of emails. There's a text message I can look at, but there's also things like tasks, documents, contacts, and fields. So if there's a field you need to update by the end of the day, you can mark it high priority, and it's going to live in your, it's going to live in this health bar for you so that you don't miss anything.
So something that happens really often in transactions is dates change. So what happens if a close date changes and so now all of the tasks have the incorrect date or all of the automated emails that were supposed to be scheduled to send tomorrow need to be pushed a week. What
Okay.
does open to close do with that?
Yeah, so it's automatically changed. So if you change a closing date based on so we have date templates that come in based on the type of transaction. So if you're doing a Zillow contract, that's a little bit different than if you're doing maybe a purchase contract in Arizona, right? Different timelines. Someone may use business days, someone may use calendar days, someone may use calendar days skipping weekends. There's a lot of different scenarios that happen in the lower 48, even all 50 states, really. There's all these different scenarios that happen with dates. So we have it set up so that if you change your closing date, it will cascade through all the other dates and change those as well to update the due dates. Then it will also update everyone's calendar automatically if you have it set up that way as well. So all that happens automatic just by changing one date, everything will change, and it will even change the dates associated with these tasks. So if you have tasks that are based on like 2 days before closing, it will update those tasks automatically as well.
Okay. So you mentioned states. Is open to close available in Canada?
It is. Yeah. And we have some specific things that we do in Canada as far as commission calculations and things that are a little different there. So yes, it is available. We have a lot of high level users, I will say there, and Mexico too. So basically North America is where we're focused right now.
Okay. Does open to close have any sort of dashboard overview for either the TC or agent to see where are all of my transactions? What's happening with all of them?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways you can do it depending on how you like to work, right? We have a dashboard where you could put widgets in, and each widget has different information in it depending on what you want to see. We also have this dashboard, which is the properties dashboard. It has a filter system. So we call them tables and segments. Basically, it's filter one, filter two. So I can say, show me all my closings that have inspections in the next 3 days, or show me all my pendings that whatever, right? Like any kind of scenario you want to set up. And then it parses down to just these transactions. And then you can see, okay, I got some stuff to do here today. This red bar means there's stuff to do. Let's say I need to change a field and I don't want to go all the way into the transaction to do it. There's these shortcut buttons throughout throughout open to close, and you can say details. It's going to pop open your fields just for this transaction. I can make that change, and then I can be right back to where I was. So there's that. There's also the task pipeline. So the task pipeline, sorry, I'm in an account without task due. I apologize. But you normally would have some things here. So I'm gonna minimize past due because I don't have any. Typically you'd have some today, tomorrow, in 2 days, right? And then you would have those populated here, and you can actually complete the tasks here, or you can send emails, you can update documents, you can do everything you want from this screen, and you can save snapshots. So snapshots are basically a filter of what you want to see. So if you have an order that you go in during the day, like the first thing I do is all my properties with inspections coming up. Next thing I do is appraisals. Next thing I do is closings. You can set up those snapshots so you're automatically filtering through your workflow during the day. And then we have the trigger pipeline as well. If you're working in triggers, it's very much like the task pipeline, but it's just for people that don't want to work in tasks and want more automation out of their system.
So expand on that. What is triggers?
Yeah, the triggers are basically just kind of what I explained earlier. It's more of like, if these things are true, then I need to send this email. So instead of you telling a task, right? Tasks I feel are triage. It's like an email. You have to go to your email and search through those 200 junk emails to get to the one you want and then figure out what property it's for. Well, you don't have to do that. Basically what's happening in open to close is we're looking at what's happening in the transaction and then saying, because these things have happened, time to send this email. So we're going to pop that email into your health bar and say, it's time to send this and notify you. So instead of you telling open to close what to do, open to close is telling you what's next on the docket, and it saves a lot of time.
Okay, so it's like conditions on steroids for the triggers.
That's it. And it's just so you're not some of these, I was just talking to a team yesterday. They had 51 pendings. 51 pendings is a lot to go through each task list every day. You're wasting a lot of time going to these screens. Instead, we're setting them up on triggers where now it's just going to say, time to do this, time to do that, time to do that. And it's just going to kind of take them through their day.
So I'm not sure if you're at all familiar with a platform called Maverick.
Yeah.
Maverick is used like data analytics for conversion. And there's a functionality in there called Nudge, where if the team owner sees that action items have not been done and they need to be done, they can nudge an agent. So is there ever a scenario where a TC can see there are tasks that haven't been completed by an agent and they need to nudge the agent?
Yes. So all the tasks that we send to Follow Up Boss, or all the tasks that we put in the mobile app, or all the tasks we send to other CRMs, right? The TC has full visibility into those on when they're done by the agent. And so what we have is, so I didn't show you, but on the task, it says when this task is complete, do these things. But we also have another function called when this task isn't complete by a certain date, do these things. So we can build it in that 2 days before this task is due, or before this due diligence period is done, if the agent hasn't done this task, I want you to send a text to them. Now I want you to schedule a phone call with them. Now I want you to, and increasingly gets more like, hey, we need to get this done like right away. Oh, I'm sorry. I got my
Oh,
things on. So like I got, um, so anyway, yes, to answer your question, we can do all of that through the system, and then we can have it actually automated so the TC doesn't have to check and check and check.
yeah,
It just automatically knows that 2 days before that task is due, it hasn't been done, and it's going to nudge that person as many times as you want.
that's good to see. And so what do the nudges look like? Is it a push notification on the phone? Is it a text, an email?
You say what it is. So some agents respond better to email, some respond better to text, some respond better to push. You are going to be, so right now push is coming out in the new 2.0 mobile. So right now that's not available, but you have the text and email, and you also have, you could put a Calendly link in there. You could do a bunch of things with it that people have gotten creative so that they get on the phone with their agents.
Got it. Very cool. I know I'm kind of going like scatterbrained. I think that answered all of my scatterbrained questions. I know you probably wanted to show some other things in here, so I'll let you take over of other features that are in open to close.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to get too feature based because everybody runs so different in their
Yeah,
processes. And so what we like to do is just a first discovery call with them, right? And you do the same thing, right? You have that discovery call and you just learn about their business. And it's like, I'm not pushing anything on you. You tell me how you want your business to run. And now let me tell you if we can solve your pain points. First of all, 99.9% of the time it's yes, especially when it's just transactions. But it's like, are we a good fit first? And second of all, what do you want to solve first, second, third? And then we go in, because some people have a real, like their emails are dialed in, but they have a real problem with tasks. Other people's tasks are dialed in, but they have a real problem with email templates. And so what we like to do is go through that process, figure out the pain points, and then we go into individual features after that. We don't want to like feature bomb them because we have a ton of features in here. And so it can get overwhelming if we don't just kind of go step by step. But just to kind of show you some of the menus, dashboard I kind of showed you, you can add widgets. The properties I showed you, you can use all of these filters to have these lists so you can quickly pull up a list of properties that meet a certain criteria or filter. We have the task pipeline, which I showed you. I wish I had a task in there to show you because it's really cool, all the stuff you can do within that task. It's a Kanban and it's just a little tile on there, and you can make the tiles as big or as little as you want. The trigger pipeline is for the automation. We don't suggest people getting into that right away. Data request is something that will be on a new release. So that's coming where you're going to be able to see requests for data. Or so on the new app, the agents have a lot more control over the transaction where they're able to change fields and do tasks and things like that if you give them the ability, right? It's all based on the admin and permissions. Some agents, we do not want to have any control over this transaction, right? Everybody knows that. But there's agents that have been, or maybe it's a team leader that does their own transactions, and so you want them to have a little bit more control. They're going to be able to change a field, and then you can either automatically approve it if you really trust them, or it's going to come in as a data request to the TC saying, I would like to change this field, and this is the reason why. And then the TC has control to actually change that. So it's not so much back and forth. We're trying to take the time off the TC and get them working more files per month. Contacts, we're not a CRM, but we have some cool features in here with contacts where you can say, let's see here, like
I see
connection.
the FUB inspiration.
Yeah, right. So, and actually that's what Shane did. He kind of looked at FUB and we reworked this a little bit. But like connections, if I add Andrew, I always want to add Elena, right? Because we're business partners and we work on these transactions together. So if you have this button checked, every time they add me, you're going to come in. But if you're just like my friend and we've done some deals together, but it's not every deal, then we can turn this off so that you don't automatically come into the transaction. Client portals, you always want to send a client portal invite to your clients. We have roles on that so you can monitor how much they see. Do you groups, do you want to add 10 people at the same time? You can have people in groups, you could have lead sources. Here's a follow-up boss one. This contact wasn't brought in from follow-up boss, but we have options for follow-up boss on contacts. And then here are all the transactions this person's been associated with. You can dive into them that way. So lots of stuff in contacts that's not CRM based, but more just functionality for the transaction based. And then your intake forms, which I showed you. You have an email inbox. You can hook this up to Microsoft or Gmail and actually use the API. So you're sending, kind of like FUB, you're sending emails from Gmail. You're just having visibility and open to close. So everything is, cuts down on the spam. You're not using like a send grid. Texting inbox. So we have texting in here. We use Twilio as well, like FUB. And then we have reporting. I don't think I have any reports in this account, but you can do reporting on transactions here. We don't do like lead reporting or anything like that, but we do transactional reporting. And then we also have, like I showed you earlier, we have the, we have the template screen with all of our templates. So it's pretty, we have a bad rap because of the way we started the company, and I wasn't thinking clearly at the beginning, and I didn't have enough resources for people. We've kind of got a bad rap on like getting it set up. But if you come to us and you meet with our implementation team and you go through our onboarding process, we should be able to get you set up pretty quick. The people that take a little longer are the ones that are more sophisticated, the 2,000, 3,000 transactions a year people, we're seeing them take some time. But I was just actually talking to someone that did about 3,500 transactions last year, and I think they've saved $400,000 or $500,000 this year off of employees. They were able to cut their staff from like 15 to 17. I think they're down to 5 now, and they'll probably be able to get even lower in the future.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, if someone wanted to ask questions about the Open to Close platform, is that a possibility? Can someone schedule a demo or a discovery call with your team?
Yeah. So if you just want a quick demo, you don't want to talk to anyone, you don't want to feel like, not that we are not a high pressure organization. Like we are more of like, don't do it, then do it. We want to make sure that you're a good fit and you have the right mindset for it. But if you don't want to talk to someone and you just kind of want to see what it's all about, go to our website. You can either hit try for free and do a demo. I don't really recommend that. I recommend just doing the product tour, watching that. It's about a half an hour. It goes through all the things that we kind of went through today, but more in depth. It gives you a really good overview of the system. If you do want to meet with someone, email help@open2close. So help@open2close is our support box, and then they'll send it out to whoever needs to see it.
Very good. Well, Andrew, thank you for your time. I know we went over the original scheduled time, so I appreciate you taking that extra time to show the platform. And I know people will definitely appreciate seeing this under the hood look of Open to Close. I think there's definitely a lot of value in your product.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you and all the value you bring to the community. So I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Andrew. You have a great rest of your day. I appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.